Welcome to the Retail Tech Podcast, where we talk about the full spectrum of technologies and implementation used in omnichannel and online retail. Make sure to subscribe to our newsletter at retailtechpodcast.com, and we always look forward to your feedback. I am at the NRF Big Show in New York with Arun Nair, CTO and co-founder of a company called RetailNext. How are you, Arun?
Doing great, thank you.
What is RetailNext? Is it a hardware company, a software company?
Yeah. So RetailNext, like I was saying, we joke a lot that RetailNext is a retail company that happens to use technology to solve retail problems. We focus solely on physical retail stores right now. Obviously, a longer-term view of omnichannel and tying in online analytics, but mostly we're focused around optimizing operations as well as shopper experience in physical retail stores.
And the way you do that?
And to answer your question whether we're hardware or software, we use a combination of hardware as well as software. We have proprietary software, we have proprietary hardware. We also use off-the-shelf hardware. Essentially, we kind of put these together to essentially solve a business need of the retailer, which tends to be around how to make stores more efficient from a layout perspective, product placement perspective, shopper experience perspective, and kind of backing out from that to understand what technology is required to solve that problem.
Okay, so when you look at the retail store of today, what are some of the key areas that retailers really should pay attention to and focus on, improving or optimizing?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we have one of the slide decks that we show is sort of how, if you look at the websites from 1998 when the .com started and online commerce started becoming a thing to websites of today, versus if you look at retail stores from 50 years ago and retails today, most stores are like quite the same, right? And consumers are getting more used to convenient, accessible shopping, right? They want the product that they want it right away. They want like good shopper experience, and we feel that as people really crave physical experiences. They like going to stores, not online stores, mostly convenience aspect. But as they go to the store, like the things that people want are like very quick. They want the product. They want good products. They want to be able to find those products. They want the right assistance from the retail personnel. And they want a good checkout experience as well, not standing in lines for a long time and like scanning all that kind of stuff, right? So they just want in and out. Almost, I would say, like an Uber-like experience for shopping. Amazon is doing a great job there. Like Amazon Go is a fantastic step in that direction of like walking in and walking out, very convenient, removing the friction around retail, right? So I think that's one way of putting it. Is removing friction around retail is where we need to go.
Okay, so I think that's a good takeaway to move into my next question, which is the friction around retail. Most people think that friction is retail associates. Yeah. Is that true? Or if that's true, what's the future of retail associates?
Yeah, it's a good question. So sometimes it is, right, depending on how well trained your associates are. Like we know we have some customers where the associates are incredibly well trained and well compensated, and they really know how to assist you, stay out of the way when they need to stay out of the way, but assist you in like picking the right product when they need to, right? And I think those associates are absolutely necessary. They're not going to go away, but definitely in terms of stepping up the quality of assistance is definitely going to be a thing, right? People who really know the products in the store, what's going to be right for you, and helping you, guide you to that product, and assisting your experience is definitely going to be a thing moving forward.
So if you look at employment statistics right now in retail, the majority of people that work in retail are the retail sales associates, which are not the highly trained. Right. They're cash register operators. Yes. What's the future of those people?
So I think there's definitely opportunity for retraining, right? And we see this outside of retail as well, as technology catches up and starts kind of automating things that we kind of took for granted in the past. Humans had to sort of retrain and do like levels above, right? So for example, in the automotive industry, like the Tesla has just created a manufacturing plant. They have almost nobody working there. They have like all robots and the people are managing the robots, right? Similar to that. And I think, in retail technology, things like the checkout experience, like finding your product, things like that, where you know what you want to do, is just there's friction around doing it. That needs to get automated away by technology. But the assistance of like your store personnel know most about the product, and like linking the product to the shopper. Because I'm going to the store, I want to buy something that fills a need, right? And that is not going to really be solved by technology. I think you need people to assist you in doing that and like making a shopper experience better. So I think definitely there's retraining and like a adjustment of roles that's definitely going to happen from like you said, cash register operators to people who assist you in your experience.
So I think it's probably fair to say that the checkout part of physical retail is going to be pretty much automated in the next 5-10 years.
I absolutely agree with that, yes. I mean, we've seen that even in grocery stores where even if you check it out yourself, a lot of people actually prefer that versus standing in queue and all that stuff, right? And the ideal thing is where you don't have to check out. You pick up the items you want, bill me correctly, let me go home and enjoy the items I just bought versus standing in line and going to checkout and all that kind of stuff, right? So absolutely one of the first things that will go and needs to go is the whole current checkout experience, I think.
And it's going to be different for different products, of course. If you have larger products that are easy to detect and see, it's going to be easier to get those done first. But if you have a product which needs to be weighed, or there's a custom number, like if you're buying bulk items at the grocery store, those are probably going to take a little bit longer to automate.
Yeah, probably. My hope is that bulk items, for example, like the dispenser itself has technology. So if I say like I want 2 pounds of this stuff, it knows to pack up 2 pounds and also label it correctly, is my hope, so that to your point I don't have to then go and wait and things like that. So my hope is all that will just get automated away, right?
It's just a matter of time.
Exactly.
It's just that like self-driving cars, it seems like they're going to be the future. It's just a matter of time.
Exactly.
So talking about this Amazon Go experiment that Amazon is coming up with, let's take a look at the different aspects of it. So one of them is the checkout.
Yes.
How can you actually make checkout completely, I guess, automated?
Yeah. So one obvious way to make it, checkout automated, and I'm pretty sure Amazon is using that, is using RFID, right? And it's not new technology, right? So we have RFID, passive RFID tags that are quite inexpensive, like 5 to 10 cents, even lower in like really large volumes. And you can have readers as well, and readers pretty reliably can read hundreds of these tags very, very quickly. So if you have sort of a choke point, which is a very narrow exit, which you can see in Amazon videos is the case, and you don't have some really weird bag that blocks wireless signals or something, it's quite straightforward. You can bulk scan a bunch of these going out, right? The challenge has always been, especially if you're a type of retailer that has a bunch of different items from a bunch of different manufacturers, how do you get them all on the same page to put these RFID tags in there? We've seen more success with people who are vertically integrated. They manufacture the products, and it's easy to put RFID in there. I'm pretty sure in Amazon's situation, they control like end to end, so all the products in the store have an RFID tag in them.
So it's like almost printed into the packaging.
Pretty much, yeah. And I would think that to supplant that, they're probably using computer vision as well. It is possible using computer vision to identify objects. You may have seen a demo downstairs where they identify people and age and gender. So you can also train it to identify packages, right? So when you're talking of like 1,000 SKUs that you're managing in a store, it's quite easy to train the software to understand those SKUs in different angles. So even as you're picking up the item off the shelf, you can know what the item is using an overhead camera, and then you can double check that as you're doing the checkout using RFID, right? So it's almost like if it's two technologies that have 95% accuracy, if you put them together, it's a very high likelihood that you'll just get everything right.
So RFID and probably, so what about beacons? Do you think beacons are going to be a factor in checkout?
I don't know if they'll be a factor in checkout, because checkout is primarily around the product and identifying the product. Beacons are probably not the right technology for that. I think beacons are more useful in terms of like interaction, the beginning of bringing you into the store.
So more like on the person, not the product, the shopper.
Exactly, yeah. So that's one thing that surprised me a little bit about the Amazon Go video, is the way you check into the store is by launching the app, pulling the QR code and scanning the QR code, which I thought was very bizarre. Is because it is something that beacons are fantastic for that. Actually, if you pull up the app and then like you walk close to beacon, it knows who you are and it can just check you in. Versus the odd, if anyone scanned a QR code, you know how painful it is. So that part is a little strange to me. And to your point, it's perfect for identifying the shopper using the phone.
So the ultimate, and again, is the app actually out? Is the Amazon Go app out or?
No, so it's in restricted beta for only their employees. They intend to make it public actually early this year in the store in Seattle. So I do know some friends at Amazon who have gone shop that they love the experience, but they're not allowed to talk about it. They won't talk about it.
Right.
But I'm sure a bunch of people are gonna book a first flight to Seattle as soon as it's open to the public.
The line's already forming.
Yes, it is. You can see lines of Amazon employees right now. So I can only imagine when they go public with that.
So let's talk about some other technologies that they need to have worked out in there. What other pieces of technology they need to have worked out?
Yeah, I think it's primarily, I would say it's primarily computer vision RFID. So if you get those two correct, then you can actually replicate the entire Amazon Go experience, right? Because it's all about identifying the shopper, identifying the products, and putting them together, right? That if you think about it at a very high level, those are the only three problems to solve. They're very hard to solve. But if you use computer vision or actually your app or your smartphone to identify the shopper, and then you use RFID and computer vision to identify the products, it's just a matter of putting them together, right?
Right.
It is easy to execute if it's a smaller store, small number of SKUs. You control the entire end-to-end experience, so it's not something that a lot of other retailers can easily replicate. But if it's a boutique store that has a bunch of money, it's something that's definitely possible. And in the longer term, as technology, this type of technology is more widespread, more widely available, I think you'll start seeing that in more locations.
And it is pretty early in the process, so I'm sure things are going to improve a lot.
Yeah.
One thing that I can think about is that how do I try something? How do I touch it?
Oh yeah.
If it's behind the glass in somewhere.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Grocery is one thing where you walk in and you're hungry, you want a sandwich, you want to try out a bunch of clothes and shoes and all that stuff. It is absolutely a lot more complicated for sure. Yeah.
So then the other part for grocery is that somebody needs to be stocking in the back all the products that are being sold.
Yeah.
So that's going to be an interesting part, is that they will have human beings, or it has to be like a conveyor belt from the Amazon distribution center in the sky.
Yes, yeah, for sure. They may use drones for delivery, but yes, it'll be humans for stocking, and I think it'd be very strange if there's no humans in there to help you with stuff, right? Like, you walk in and there's like nobody there at all, and it's all automated. I think kind of feel very cold and unwelcoming unless you're like very business-like. So I would think there's employees there to assist you with stuff and help you with stuff. I certainly hope that's the case. Definitely on the checkout area, but like I was talking about earlier,
right,
to assist you in finding products and the new products that they have, like letting you try stuff, and I think that's absolutely important.
Yeah, it would be interesting to find out what it is when it actually opens up to the public, to see how much human involvement is there already.
Yeah, I agree, yeah.
So let's see. So security in a store is important as well. And for example, like one of the things that RetailNext does, from my understanding, is that you actually measure and provide analytics on the location of the shopper in the store.
Yeah.
So they would probably have to have that built in as well.
You mean from a security perspective or from a...
Well, so that kind of like can tie into security, right?
Yeah.
So if you're doing that with video,
yeah,
it can be also a security asset.
Yes. So that's exactly how we actually kind of got into security. Is we are an analytics company, but to your point, we already use video, we already track people, so it's almost natural to use the analytics to do security as well. I would think Amazon is tracking people just like we do, because when someone picks up a product, you need to associate that product to the person, right? So it's one thing to identify the product using the camera, but then you need to know whose basket to put it into. So most likely they are tracking you as you come into the store and as you're walking around using video. It's pretty straightforward to track people in that way.
Right. Now, what about privacy? I mean, this is something that you probably have to address in your business right now.
Yes.
When somebody comes into a store and you're video recording them, what happens to that data, and what rights do I have as a shopper, as a consumer?
It's a very good question. So our belief is that to improve the shopper experience, and actually, to be fair, retailers, our customers as well, right? Their beliefs is that they want the data in aggregate, right? So how many women, how many men, roughly what age group, what categories are doing well, what interactions are doing well. They're not interested in individual data because it doesn't really help them anyway. So all the data in our system is anonymous and aggregated. So you just see tracks and heat maps. You might see bar charts and things like that. So we don't really identify individuals. Of course, in the Amazon situation, you need to identify yourself to do the checkout, right?
If you're making a purchase.
Exactly. You probably want to be identified.
Right.
So yes.
You can't do anonymous checkout
Exactly.
in a retail store.
Yes, exactly. And that's one thing to say is there's definitely challenges between that tension between providing your individual information and how much benefit you get out of that, right? So in a situation where I'm walking in and it's just a really easy experience to check out, I think there's a really nice tie-in between yes, I'm giving up some privacy, obviously, but then it's a retailer, they know what I'm buying anyway. Like, without all the technology, the places I shop at, using my credit card or loyalty card, they already know anything about me or what categories I'm buying. So this is not that different in that way. And if you look at Amazon online, they probably know a lot more about you than they can ever know physically, right? So even with us, like, we have many customers who have online presence as well. So the data they have about online shoppers is so much more richer than the data they have about the physical shoppers, because you're logging in, you have an account, your cookies and things like that. So for us, it's a strong focus on anonymizing the data, aggregating the data, giving you high level trends of information.
So I mean that is true, but I'm thinking as a retailer, I would kind of like to know if Arun came into my store and didn't buy anything.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of like personalization, or if Arun is in my store, what can I show him that he might be more apt to purchase while he's in the store? So that kind of like personal identification can be valuable, but you can't just take it for granted that you can do that.
Exactly. Yes, very good point. And that's one thing we always focus on is opting in. So anytime you're identifying individually, you're any kind of individual level tracking, the opt-in has to come from you. That's one of the good things with beacons is sort of opt-in. You had to download the app and say, yes, I want to give access to a beacon, or in the Amazon case, you had to explicitly scan your app. So you're giving permission to retailer in return for some benefit, right? Whether it's easier checkout or a promotion that I'm interested in, some level of personalization, right? So people are generally okay with sharing some personal information as long as the return value is clear, and how that data is used is also clear. And so we always encourage like opt-in, like this. We explicitly are against ways to defeat privacy, right? So you have to have control over privacy and how we control that data, and you have to have the choice to opt in. Where you're educated, what will you get if you opt in, and you make the choice whether you opt in or not, right? So that, to your point, is absolutely critical.
So what do you think about the fact that a lot of retailers actually have their own app? Depending on who you talk into the industry, it's a good thing or not necessarily a good thing. Is it really like a benefit for retailers to have their own app, or is it better for them to be, for example, in other apps that kind of like aggregate consumers? Because consumers, they don't want to have 200 different apps on their phone.
It's a very good question. Actually, we have the conversation a lot with retailers too. I think a lot of it depends on how much brand power you have, right? So like if you're a Nike or a Macy's, you probably have a lot of really dedicated customers who have your app, where you can truly customize the experience to somebody who's really into your brand, right? And for them, it makes sense like to download the app. The challenge is for like a smaller retailer, you have maybe 20 stores, right? Do you want to invest in building an app? That's one of the questions we get. How many shoppers are actually going to download the app, and to your point, like put that on page 17 of their, of the smartphone. But I don't know if there's a good solution yet either of a company that helps multiple retailers in using a single app, right? So it's quite tricky. There's sort of chicken and egg thing going on, right? So you had to have this company, but that app itself is not valuable until a bunch of retailers sign on to the app and things like that. But I agree with you that the kind of app proliferation is definitely a challenge. It's something where we've seen the larger brands have success in. It's good for shoppers, it's good for brands. For the smaller ones, it's definitely a challenge,
Right, it seems like there is room for that kind of aggregation.
Yes.
But again, so I'm thinking, for example, again, out loud, giving some ideas maybe to other companies, but let's say somebody like Groupon or Yelp that has so many consumers or stores, retailers actually signed up for them, could potentially put something like this into their app where they would be able to aggregate that information.
Yep, absolutely.
So are you interested in that? No.
Someday.
You're busy enough as it is.
It's a little different from the analytics space, but someday. It's a really big problem, as you said, and yeah, having an aggregation app is definitely one really good solution.
Right.